Alrighty, folks, welcome to our Tuesday live stream discussion with John Willis from Special Operations Equipment. We've got Bear Independent and the Bear Nation today. Hey, Bear Nation, good to see you. I'm Nicole.
Hey.
Yeah, hey. I'm Nicole Class from Living Free in Tennessee, and we're going to talk about whatever you ask us in the comments. I'll do my best to keep up on that. If you really want me to see it, write the first word in all caps, please, and I can just mark it and do my best to work it into the conversation. But I thought we'd start out, Bear, we haven't talked to you for like 5 months. So what's happened in the last 5 months? Anything exciting?
Oh gosh, everything. Let's see. So we started construction on Caleb House in earnest, which is awesome. That's our juvenile human trafficking survivor restoration facility, aka the place where we put kids who've been serially raped and trafficked by assholes back together again. So we're pushing dirt, we're building buildings, we'll be pouring concrete in the spring, so that's super cool. We have assisted in several, we being Caleb House, field ops have assisted in several operations that have resulted in bad shit happening to bad people, which I always love. So that's great. Refuge Medical is still going strong. Praise Yah. That's wonderful. I've been batching content like a madman for Patreon because my wife is 7 months pregnant. And so the goal is to, once the baby gets here, to like be able to take a month off and not have to sit in front of a camera. So that's cool. And building a house in my front yard to be able to move out of this house into that house, which is going to be cool because currently the house that we live in is not technically big enough for the family that we got shoehorned in here. Plus we got a baby coming. So the house that we live in should have been hit with a bulldozer 6 years ago when we moved here. My wife was like, we can fix it up. My same wife, who I love, who is literally fixing a busted water line right now while I'm live with you, realized when she got pregnant, she's like, maybe we should build another house. It's like, baby, I love you. We should have done this 6 years ago. So, no pressure over here. New baby, build Caleb House, run field ops, run the companies, build a house here, batch content. Oh, and I'm writing a book. So yeah, that's what's new with me. How about you?
You're not busy at all, are you?
So I literally have a sign that's hanging up in my office. It's a banner. It's 4 foot high, 12 foot wide that says F busy, be effective. Because too many people get wrapped around the axles on busyness. If your busyness doesn't actually produce results, that's just masturbation. So be effective. And to be clear, I do not recommend that most people do all the things at the same time that I do at the same time. I think most people should find a groove, do one, maybe two things incredibly well, and then capitalize on that down the road when they have the experience, the network, and the liquid revenue, the capital to be able to throw at something else. Don't start with 7 to 10 things to be like, Bear, that shit's retarded. And I live that retardation every day. And so, yeah, but busy is no bueno. I don't recommend busy at all. I recommend you be effective. And that requires somebody to be able to prioritize and execute reverse planning process. What do I want to happen? Then break that into bite-sized pieces and reverse plan. How do I execute on each one of these bite-sized pieces so that I can achieve the desired end state that I want in the first place? And that's effective. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. Nothing ever gets done. You get demoralized. You want to jump off of tall buildings. You question the meaning of life. Everything's, Linus from the Peanuts with the rain cloud over your head all the time. So don't be busy, folks. Be effective.
Man, you're speaking to my soul because my word of the year today is hone. And the reason it's hone is I became overly busy last year and it was not good for me, not good for my businesses. And I realized I have to hone my time to be better for what's being required of me at this point. And so it's been like every day I get up and I one of the things I do is write in a journal for 15 minutes about how is honing going. And I realized after working all day that I could only account for, and John will appreciate this, I could only account for 5 hours of actual work, but I was exhausted. And so the next day I set a timer every 15 minutes and I stopped and I wrote down what I did so I could look at that and figure out what was happening. And it was a really great exercise to say, okay, this is why. This is why. It's not that I'm not doing anything, it's that I'm doing the wrong things a lot of the time. And if I just stop and, find ways to get those things done that don't involve me and then focus more time at one time, things move forward. So that's
my brother Saw from Survival Applications of Weapons Systems has a concept that he teaches and preaches called preserve the edge. And that goes with your concept of hone. And preserve the edge can be literal in that, like, don't cut the tuna can in half with your knife. Be smarter than that, but also preserve the edge of your mind and preserve the edge of your heart. And so when you are bumping into things, literally or figuratively, metaphorically, that will dull you, maybe don't do that. The same rock that I can sharpen a knife with will dull that knife if the angle of intersection isn't correct. And if I don't take the care and dedicate the time and the attention to this thing to actually sharpen it, I'm just going to make it dull. And you can take a great knife and a great sharpening stone and apply the inappropriate technique to it, and all you did was make it worse. And so preserve the edge goes with your concept of hone. I like that.
Awesome. John, what have you been up to in the last 5 months?
What have I done in the last 5 months?
Yeah, tell Bear what you've done. I don't know if you two have been catching up, but you've got some fun projects in the works.
He sent me a bunch of Instagram reels. I know he did that.
I send Bear Instagram reels so that they're on his radar, because that way he stays at rather than 3 days behind on stuff. That's why I send those to you. And at any time we can definitely stop sending. I know there's a lot of it that goes through there. I just try to get it into your head as it's happening.
Good, bro. I just like messing with you.
Yeah. Just more stuff on the property. We need more stuff to feed animals, right? So everything, whenever we do an event here, it seems like it's always dead and it looks like a bomb of Roundup has gone off. So like today we're bringing in straw for, just protection and warmth for animals. We've got 0-degree temperatures coming in. Just more infrastructure, really. Just a ton of stuff we've kind of pulled out of the outside and into the inside. So just SOE business, a lot of stuff inside the building.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Talk to him about, about Homestead Apprentice, Bear?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know if everybody else does. And I love your initiative with that. So go and preach on that for a minute.
Yeah. Homestead Apprentice. We're going to draw in a group of 50 people and just do a 72-hour kind of a selection, and then pull 2 12-man teams out of that and then run them head to head. You'll come in and you're going to tent camp the first night, or, forest camp or whatever. And then we're going to build something where you guys will house, and then build something out for lodging, and then just different projects for a 6-week project. And that'll be homestead. It'll be business development. It will be some social media stuff. It'll be video stuff. Just kind of how to take different projects and then how to monetize them, right? So you can have the chicken egg guy, like Salatin says, people gravitate to what they want to do. And then how do we flesh that out, right? So if you've got so many chickens and you have so many eggs and we're producing more eggs, how do we sell those? So how do we move eggs, right? We're obviously not going to mail them, but how do we draw people to us? Well, that's social media. And it just goes back to, you always hear, money's not everything. You're right, it's not, but for most people it is, because you go to some place that you hate every morning for an amount of time and you don't enjoy it. And then when it's done, you spend all weekend grumbling about that place you have to go back after the weekend. So how do we take that money that's left? What do you spend that on, right? That's your hobby or your love, your passion, whatever. How do we take that and flesh that out and monetize that, so that thing that you really enjoy, how are you able to live that life that you want and, raise your family and pay your bills and such? So just, we're kind of going in, we're kind of figuring it out as we go along. But the infrastructure's in place. Homesteadapprentice.com, all the social medias are up there. You can take a look at all of this and get a pretty good idea about what this is about. And then you just put in your application, and it's surprising the applications coming in, because there's people from all different walks of life. and that's what we're looking for. You know, the guys going through buds, for instance, it's never the peak triathlon or the quarterback that makes it through. It's always that dude that you least expect. And this isn't like buds. That's not what we're making it, but we want everybody to come in, and then we're just going to kind of put them into teams and see where they fit and how they work together.
I think it's a really cool initiative. At Living Free in Tennessee, we're working with other content creators, and hopefully we'll be able to involve y'all in this to provide project accelerators this year. So what that means is somebody comes in and says, I have a business idea, or my business is here and I want it to be better. And we brainstorm with them for an hour live. We take commitments from the comments to see if they can do better. We did our first one in December with a member from the Self-Reliance Festival who was the happy person. John knows who I'm talking about. And she just launched a new brand called the Sunshine Prepper, where she's going to give you prepper news, but from a happy point of view. So you get out of your fear mindset and start making better long-term decisions for yourself. I just talked to Toolman Tim, and he and I are going to get one person in a month on that. And then based on what their project is, bring somebody like you, John, or Bear in, if you have time, to be the third person giving them feedback online. And I'm really excited about that, where that's going to go, because it feeds into my book, which is launching this year too, which is a production or productivity planning book.
I think that's great. I think that's absolutely great. I think if more people took the personal responsibility to do what they want to do rather than be stuck on the hamster wheel of what they have to do, the world would be a better place. I also think that there's a lot of bullshit internet entrepreneurs out there that, you know, want to give you six hacks for e-com and all this other crap, and, you know, stand and do a photo op in front of somebody else's private jet that they just don't know what they're talking about. And one of the things that people miss is that entrepreneurship, running a business, is difficult. It's an acquired skill, and it requires commitment and discipline, much more so than most people will make it out to be. It's, you know, Andy Frisella talks about this. Alex Hormozy talks about this. You have natural giftings and talents and delights. I don't run fast and I don't jump very high. That's just the way I was made, right? And so I'm always going to be very bad at basketball. No matter how much I try to be great at basketball, I'm not physiologically built for basketball. And I can drill myself 8-10 hours a day to get better at basketball, but I'll still be limited because I don't have those inherent giftings and talents and delights. And when you go look at somebody like, you know, Kobe Bryant or whatever, I don't know shit about basketball, but you look at a professional basketball player, those people are skilled at that, and they've spent a lifetime building those skills. A lot of times people look at entrepreneurs, especially successful entrepreneurs, and think, well, I can do that too. And the answer to that is you can, but you don't. Most sane people don't watch a professional football game and think, oh, I could do that. You know, they don't watch the Olympics and go, oh, I can do a triple tuck backflip, whatever that shit's called. You know, that's delusional. You understand the amount of work and dedication that went in for that person to be able to achieve those things. And with entrepreneurship, there's not a lot of conversation around the fact that it does take a lot of work and a lot of dedication and a lot of discipline, and you still have terrible days. They're just your terrible days. They're not somebody's terrible day. You know, you're not having a terrible day on behalf of somebody else. And the flip side of that is the great days are your great days. They're not great days on behalf of somebody else. And so I think it's an awesome, almost kind of like incubator, what you're talking about. I think that's great to get that external opinion on the means, methods, TTPs, about how to actually run a business, build a brand, all of that, to shine some light on some of that, those areas that aren't really talked about. Like, yeah, you need a brand. Cool. For most people, that means like I have a logo and social media now. Like, that's not a brand, right? A brand is what people feel when they interact with your company. Like SOE has a brand. SOE is known throughout the world. You know, when you buy something that says special operations equipment on it, you can literally bet your life on it. That's a brand, right? It's not simply that I got a logo built and I've got this social media handle, now I'm branded. Or like a brand can't exist in a vacuum. You have to have customers to establish the brand, to give you the feedback about the brand. And if you don't service those customers and service those customers well, take care of them, that brand isn't going to last very long, because most people start businesses to generate income, when the reason a business should exist, if it's going to exist for any length of time, is to solve as many problems for as many people as possible, and solve those problems the best way possible, giving the giftings, talents, and delights to the founder and the team that supports the founder. And so if your goal is to solve a problem, people need eggs or whatever, people need happy prepper news. That's a great problem to solve, by the way. If that's the goal, solve that problem for as many individuals as possible. And then sooner or later, all those individuals become an army, and they're out there evangelizing for your brand on your behalf because of how well you took care of each individual customer. And then, yeah, sorry, I could do that for hours, but I love it.
Well, and it was inspired by interactions with John and with you, with Jack Spirko, and with all of the great people in our network who made me see, I've always tried to do this, but they made me see what I was bad at, which sounds really negative, but just, okay, I'm bad at that. Don't try to do that. Don't try to be that. Be who you are, be who you're good at. And the thing that our community does best, and the thing I do best, is help people get started. Yep. And I'm pretty good at helping people not start who aren't ready to start by being pesky and asking pesky questions. And I was like, well, let's just do that then, right? Yep. So I have you two to thank, and I have a whole bunch of people to thank for ending up there, but it took me 10 years to get there too.
The other thing too is when you ask those pesky questions, it forces you to problem solve, which if you're not a good problem solver, don't get into entrepreneurship, because that's all it is problem solving. And you're going to have so many problems. And so you have to really enjoy problem solving. But also it narrows your focus down onto a niche that you can serve. And I can fix a problem or an amalgamation of problems for this niche of people. And a lot of people think, I have a great product. I'm Nalgene brand, and I have a great product. And if you drink water, you're my customer. Well, that's way too wide, right? So you're going to market to 8 billion people. You haven't qualified those customers at all. Can they afford a Nalgene bottle? Do they want a Nalgene bottle? Do they know that Nalgene bottles exist? What applications am I going to use this for? Well, this typically is for taking water outside of my home. So ergo, outdoorsy. Who are outdoorsy people? Of those outdoorsy people, I don't know, homeless people are outdoors. Are they qualified customers for my product? Probably not. So what niche spends money on outdoorsy stuff, right? And so by asking all those pesky questions, ultimately you narrow down to go, I would like to target with my marketing and my messaging people that are into camping and into hiking. Okay, now you have an avatar, and you serve that avatar, and you can scale that single avatar from nothing to at least 10 million bucks per annum just by doubling down, tripling down on that one avatar. And then you use everything you learned and the excess revenue from serving that one avatar to select one more avatar and go over here and go, preppers are outdoorsy. Maybe I want to market to preppers. And then you trial that and you learn on that while maintaining your base of customers over here that's your hiking and your camping people, right? And so by asking those pesky questions, you actually improve the product and you improve the business plan. Because if your goal is to just sell as many things to as many people as possible, most of them, the vast majority of them, don't know that you exist. And most of them aren't even interested in your product in the first place, which means you're spending all that time and revenue trying to reach those people with zero return on investment.
Well, and we see what happens with companies who go so wide that they are dependent on political opinions that can shut them down. Like John does not need to be PC because nobody's shutting him down.
Yep.
He's who he is. Here's a question in, guys. How can newbies hone in on their gifts and delights in order to start a business or brand? What advice would you have for that? Let's go to John first.
I don't think that I'm the guy to ask. I'm not the pat you on the butt and get you motivated. Figure out what you like to do, figure out what you're spending your money on, and that that thing at the end of the day, after you've paid all your bills and you've comprised that money, that thing, what is it that you love? What do you work all week long at a place that you don't like, and you come home? What is that thing that you put that time into, right? While you're at work, what is that thing that you're thinking about? So how do we take that and we turn that into what your business is, right? What is it that you're constantly researching while you're 30 minutes in the bathroom while you're, supposed to be working? And then every time you've got that phone out, what is that thing that you're looking at and researching? How do we take that and make that what you love? And I don't know that everybody can do that, but every time I have had something like that I'm constantly involved in and constantly looking at, I figure out how to monetize that, how to make that into a business. I'm also willing to do things that a lot of people aren't. When I got my first shop, I lived in that building for a year. Like, everybody's got 2-3 car payments and they've got a house, but I have kids. Yeah, my kids were at my shop all the time when we were working, all the time. And I see people say, it takes 2 years to get a business going. It takes 5 years. It didn't me. I just started building stuff. People started buying it, and I paid some of my bills. A lot of my bills were not paid. Things were they just dissolved, right? I didn't have an extra electric and an extra water because I lived in the building. I lived in the building for 6 months with no water. We barely had electric some months. And luckily in California, they don't come pull your meter and turn your shit off. But that, and I always hear this, my kids we lived in 2 bedrooms, not a 2-bedroom house, in 2 bedrooms with 5 of us. And then we just made it happen, man. And at that 5 years, if you can take every single thing you do, everything that is you, and put it into that business for 5 years, that's going to be the difference between you trying to hit 100,000 a year and making millions a month. It's that first 5 years. Everything goes into that business.
What do you think, Bear?
So the question was essentially like, how do I know what business to get into, right? If I'm remembering that correctly. So to John's point, I've got a phrase that I like to use with some of my homies, monetize your shenanigans, right? Yep. What are you already doing that, the world is full of opportunity. If you're going to the range, turn the camera on, make some Instagram posts, right? And if you were going to buy, pick a thing, you're going to buy a water filter, and now you've got a following on Instagram because you go to the range, you reach out to the water filter company and you become an affiliate. And then not only do they send you a water filter, the thing that you were going to pay money for anyway, when you make an Instagram post or YouTube video about the water filter, they use your affiliate code and then you get 10% of that revenue or whatever, right? And so those are very easy ways to monetize your shenanigans. All that exists. And you don't have to be huge. You don't need a huge following to do that. You can be what they call micro influencer and still have those types of professional relationships with major companies. But more than that, I would look at, and I've got a video on this in the CEO Bear series on YouTube on Bear Independent, giftings, talents, and delights. And then what do you know how to do? What do you like to do? And what are you good at? I would literally make a list of those things. And you draw a Venn diagram, 3 overlapping circles. What do I know how to do? What do I like to do? And what am I good at? Because there's things I know how to do and I like to do that I'm not very good at. And there's things that I'm good at and I know how to do that I don't like to do. I'll give you 2 examples. I know how to play guitar. I like playing guitar. I'm not very good at it. Okay, so monetizing that in order to be better at playing guitar, I would have to vastly increase the amount of skill that I have for that to be marketable. So probably not viable. So now you can Pareto principle, you can 80-20, you can cut all the excess bullshit out of the things that you could do based upon what I know how to do, what I like to do, and what I'm good at. I know how to pour concrete. I've poured over 1 million yards of concrete in my life thus far. I know how to do it. I'm good at it. I hate concrete. I hate concrete. It is not possible to pay me to pour concrete. If my mom called right now and said, son, I need you to pour a load of concrete at my house, I'd say, Ma, I love you, kiss my ass. I'm not doing it. Okay. So that's also off the list. And so you can go in both directions. And eventually you're left up with that little overlapping center of those 3 overlapping circles, that Venn diagram of what I know how to do, what I like to do, and what I'm good at. And if there's something that you're just super passionate about, you really like doing it, but you don't know enough about it or you're not good at it, now that gives you a goal. I need to get better at making tactical belts or whatever it might be before this is a marketable skill. So you can self-diagnose the viability of your plan just by doing that. And then the other thing that most people miss with their business is they think it's a good idea. The world needs more Nalgene bottles. I'm going to make a Nalgene bottle, but I'm going to make it out of a different kind of plastic. Just because you think it's a good idea doesn't matter at all. 0% if the market doesn't think it's a good idea. And it's actually really good to separate the emotion out of this and just look at it practically. If the market thinks it's a good idea, the market will compensate you for your good idea through revenue. And if you can steward that revenue, you'll have profit. You have the best idea in the world. If nobody agrees with you, it's not a viable product. So I don't determine what's a good idea. I present options to the market, and then the market tells me what's a good idea. And what the market says is a good idea, if John's selling 500 belts a month, my guess is John's going to keep making belts. If I'm selling 500, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 Bearfax a month, I'm going to keep making Bearfax, regardless of this other product that I offer over here. I think this is the best thing since sliced bread. The market doesn't. So now I can continue to dedicate resources, time, which is the most precious resource that you have, and money, which is a close second, to try and make the market want this other product. Or I can just go, streamline, optimize to produce the thing that the market wants. Then that optimizes revenue, cash flow, which I can optimize for profit because I have economy of scale. And now that is what Birth Refuge Medical. Correct, Dudley. Shalom, bro. And now I've got this excess revenue, AKA after-tax money, AKA profit, that if I decide, you know what's cool? Living on a yacht's cool. I can go buy one. Or I want to buy 10,000 acres. I can do that. And so the market determines the value of the product. You don't. And that's really important because so many people are super emotionally invested in their business and their product or their service without realizing, again, your job is to solve problems for the market. And the market will tell you what's the best problem that you're solving. And then you lean into that.
Well, you are your product. Nicole is her product, right? The most valuable thing out of all of it is the audience, because you can change the product. We can change the monetization. But if you just start whatever it is you like doing and you start documenting that journey, the people who are interested in what you're doing will show up. The people that like that Bear's beard is full, they will show up, right? Whatever it is that they like, whatever that brand is, he's the poster boy of that band, and they will show up for that. And he can deviate and we can ebb and flow a little bit. They show up for Nicole. Nicole doesn't give you a product, right? You don't order something. Well, she does with coffee, but really most of her coffee is sold because Nicole sits in front of this camera and talks about her day to day, and people who align with that and people who like her voice and they like her presentation, they will show up for that. And every one of you has that. You could just be into collecting rusty bolts. I promise you, if you set up social media and every day you show a different rusty bolt, you will be surprised that there is an audience for rusty bolts. And it doesn't really matter what it is you're doing, just be consistent with doing it. And if you put out one thoughtful post today on social media with your hashtags and your text, and then you put up your shorts and put up several shorts, or like we sit and I just talk to a couple different people every week, and then we take those and we break those down into shorts. We're about to hit 100,000 on the TikTok for the Pulling the Thread podcast. And I'll bet you that most of those people on that TikTok have never watched our podcast. They've never crossed over. That's actually where we're lacking, is the TikTok monetization and the crossover and getting them to another platform. We know that. We're working on that. Instagram's easier because we started, 10 years earlier. With that said, though, I've run my YouTube channel for over 14 years now. And my buddy Jeff from Pulling the Thread podcast, his is less than, I think, 6 months old. And he's already getting more engagement than we are because he's not throttled back in the manner that we are. So really, I should break all of those into individual, but I didn't want to have to start over with zero again. So we kind of did it backwards. We probably will break those up. But every one of you, every single one of you the audience. If you have the audience and you have those people, you would be surprised if you just said, hey, I'm going to start this new endeavor. Would you be interested in funding this in some manner, even through, Patreon, for instance? I've had Patreon for over a year. Jeff's had Patreon for, I think, 60 or 90 days. And Jeff has, I'm about to hit 1,000 on Patreon. I think he has 100, but his revenue is 3 times what mine is, simply because he has higher levels of revenue on there. Yep. Every one of you has the ability.
Well, and that illustrates as well that it goes back to the problem solving. You're talking about chopping up your media, which is a prime strategy. But then, the funnel to get people from TikTok over to the podcast, that's a more tactical problem. And it's a problem you don't need to solve unless you've been doing shit for a while. But it goes back to the constant cycle of problem solving. And a lot of people suffer from paralysis by analysis because they start trying to solve those problems now, and you haven't done anything. You got to solve the problem of doing something first. And then if you solve that problem well enough, you'll be blessed with more problems to solve and more problems to solve. And even that, it never ends. You get better and better at it. So you're more and more optimized for problem solving because you have more and more experience. I agree. The audience is invaluable, though. That's a good word, John.
Yeah, a lot of people spend a lot of time pretending business, right? Playing business. They've got all those terms and everything. I made millions of dollars before I ever took a business 101 class. And I still, if I sat down in a boardroom, I don't belong there. I've got the product they want. You guys called me. This is what I have. You're going to have to speak in my language. I did it backwards. But a lot of guys spend years and they've got all the terms and, cogs and everything. And they don't have a product. They have nothing, right? Just hone your product, figure out what your product is, build your audience at the same time. And you build the audience by showing the product or your hobby or your interest or just whatever it is. It ebbs and flows.
So same thing, man. I built my first business with a $200 chainsaw and a $500 pickup truck. And then all I knew, very basic business math, is I have to spend less money than I make. It's as simple as that. And what's left over at the end, that's my profit. And if I do more work at that same ratio, I'll have more profit. And it wasn't until way later in life. I mean, even in the last probably 3 years or so, you use the word COGS, right? Most people don't even know what COGS is, cost of goods. And so I'm looking at P&Ls, profit and loss statements, and I literally would get a P&L for my CPA, certified public accountant, and I'd be looking through it going, I have no idea what any of this shit means, but I'm paying this guy to make this report. I should probably be able to read it. And so again, problem solving, I should reverse engineer a way to understand what all this stuff means, and not just on the surface level. Oh yeah, when it says COGS, that means cost of goods, but why is that COG that? Right. And so digging deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Those are later stage problems that people need to solve if you ever get there. And the other thing too is you don't need a massive audience or a massive business to generate enough revenue to live quite comfortably on. I think that's something a lot of people miss too. My goal, praise Yah, our products are on 4 continents. That's amazing. Started this company in my barn, which is 30 yards that way. And that barn's a piece of shit. It needs to be hit with the bulldozer that's in the front yard. But I can't do that yet because I got to move all this stuff out of the barn. But I started that company 4 years ago, and now we're on 4 continents. And it was never a big, long strategic whiteboard about, okay, how over the next 60 months do I take over the world? That never happened. It's just, how do I continue to iterate and problem solve for my customers? And again, they'll tell me when I did a good job. I'll be able to see that day to day when I look at sales, and they'll tell me when I didn't do a good job. How come this product's not moving? Because even if I think it's a great idea, they don't. And if you find yourself in that situation, there's 2 things you can do. Pareto it, cut it out, get rid of it, or you can go on an education campaign to explain to everybody why this is better than that. And that's not a bad strategy, but it is resource intensive.
It's also it's just lines of access and communication as well, right? So you set up your email blast and you set up your SMS, and then you can see it, especially on social media, right? We will get super good traction off Instagram, but nothing on TikTok, and then on a different piece of content, vice versa. And it's the same thing with products. We have one product when we show it over here that we sell out of it, but then when we restock it and we show it over here. Now, is there crossover between there? You have to collate that, but it is different, man. It's just putting it in front of different sets of eyeballs at the proper time also. And sometimes we just don't know when that proper time is.
100%. Yeah, timing is important, but it's not something you have 100% control over. And again, like there's nobody's perfect at this. And a lot of the people that pretend that they are perfect at this, they're full of shit because go ahead.
Entertain, educate, equip, right? So entertain them. You've got 3 seconds to capture them, maybe hold them for 10 seconds, educate them, give them something they take away that they didn't know they needed, or something that will stick with them. And then the equip. We sell equipment. So that is the commitment to the sale, and simply ask. Most people stop. They don't ask for anything. Hey, sign up for this email. Hey, will you join our text app? Hey, I have this thing for sale. Hey, check out my website. Social media allows you to do it all. You can embed those posts on all of those. I can send you to a product for the shirt that I'm wearing every morning when I do a video. Most people just fall short and they don't ask for that. Spearco, a great interview he did, which had nothing to do with prepping really. He interviewed this dude who's like the world famous aquarium fish guy. And this guy started a YouTube channel and he worked at a fish shop. And every night he would just take a little 2-minute video about a fish, put it up there. He had a couple, maybe 100 videos, stopped, had kids, built a house, comes back a couple years, looks at his channel. He has thousands of followers. And every day there's comments like, hey, when are you going to do some more videos? The guy had ghosted for years, put it on. And I think he did Patreon. And he says, all I need is 1,000. If I can get $5 from 1,000 people who are willing to back me in this endeavor. And he said it started, he got to 1,000 on Patreon at $5. Then he put up a $10 level. And he said, before you know it, I'm doing deals and I'm branding, aquarium pumps and aquarium tubing. And he goes, we went direct to the source. We flew over to China, found the guys making the pumps, had them build them to our specs. And now he has this line and he's got this world famous aquarium brand. And he goes, we don't sell any fish. That's always the problem with the live animal having to move it. And anytime you go to one of his stores, there's a line of people around the block. When you go see this dude at a fish show, like a trade show, like Blade Show, he's like, just Spearco said, he goes, I went to see this guy. It took me 2 hours to get in his booth just to shake his hand. Wow. And it was just off of showing fish. That's all his video was. And he said, I didn't even realize it was still running. And I came back and I had thousands of followers. So it was just asking for that, hey, that final commitment, that action. Will you join my Patreon?
I'm going to go back to something Bear said, which is you don't have to have a large following necessarily if you hit your niche. I have probably 1/10 the following of either of two of you. I have 1/10 the following of Jack Spearco. I know that because we share numbers sometimes. And it's still enough to sell enough coffee that we live fairly comfortably here.
Yep.
And it just, I would love for it to grow. It's been growing slowly over time, but I didn't need 4 million followers out of the shoot. And I think if you start doing what these two are telling you to do, which is creating that brand, creating your network and creating people who follow you and want to support you, and then have something that meets the need that they want, that's what you need to do. And if that means you have 100 dedicated customers first, great. Well, start with 1 and then go to 10 and then go to 100 and then go to 1,000. And that foundation can get you pretty far.
The other thing too with that is if you start with 1 and go to 10, then 100, then 1,000, if that's how you're scaling, a personal recommendation from somebody you trust on a product or service is the best advertising that you can possibly have as a brand. There is nothing better. If I'm, doing OP4 for somebody and I see some guy running around in some piece of shit web gear and I'm like, and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him and he goes, where'd you get that micro rig from? I'm like, dude, just go see John at SOE. It's like, okay, cool. Is it good? I'm like, bro, go see John at SOE. Trust me. That John can't spend enough money on advertising to outweigh that, right?
Yep.
And so when, again, going back to the individual customer, when you take care of the individual customer and you have a great product, they will evangelize for you. Holler Roast, right? When somebody says, they come over and they're hanging out, hey man, you want a cup of coffee? Oh, I'd love a cup of coffee. And you brew up a pot of Holler Roast, and they're like, this is great. Where'd you get this? I'm like, go see Nicole. You have to go get some Holler Roast. It's awesome coffee. They're great people. That's going, if you ran $1,000 a day in Facebook ads, right? That one recommendation is going to carry more weight probably than $1,000 a day in paid ads. Doesn't mean don't run paid ads. It doesn't mean don't do that. But if you're taking care of the individual customers, they will tell everybody for you. And that's one tells 10, tells 100, tells 1,000, tells 10,000, and it's literal exponential growth to the point that you can't even keep up anymore.
Look at the chat right now, right? How many of you guys in the chat randomly found us versus somebody you love told you to be here, right? And that's the same thing with all of our customers. Somebody who loves you and cares about your life told you this is the product. I recommend Bear's medical stuff all the time. I do a live every single night at 9 o'clock where you can talk to the CEO of a company who's ran this company for 35 years now. Every night, 9 o'clock, I'm on there. Sometimes people stumble across, but mostly it's somebody that they cared about said, hey, come over here. And dudes are like, hey, do you sell med kits? Yeah, go see Refuge Medical. I got a building full of med stuff. We bring them in 10,000 pieces of medical items at a time. Yeah, it's easier. Do you make med kits? I don't make med kits. We have them online. It is an add-on to the sale. We make medical pouches. I do not sell medical kits. We sell tons of medical items, but mostly it's dudes that know what they're looking for. You need a kit? Refuge Medical. He's got 100 different kinds you can get. Any color, any flavor will fit anywhere you want to put them.
Bless you, bro. Thank you.
Plus, they do some darn good training.
They do. Yeah, we've hosted them here. We've had
I'd
them
love
out
to have
here
them
training.
back. Yeah.
Bear is set right next to me. I don't know, 3-4 times, and we've done podcasts and stuff. Like when I say I know somebody, it's not. It's in real life. Like I know him. We went where he was because I wanted to see what he was doing and what he said with my own eyes. And we drove up there and I stood out there in the rain with those guys. I wanted to see what was happening. And I wanted to see it just because I wanted to be able to tell other people, right? I wanted to go, no, this is in fact what it is. It is exactly what is presented. And that is 100% how, like that, what you see online with Bear, that's Bear in real life. Like whether he knows you're talking or watching or whatever, that's what you get. That's the real deal. And we know one another in real life. And when I say go get Bear stuff, it's because I believe in what Bear's and vice versa. It's the same thing. When I say go buy Nicole's coffee, it's not because Nicole's my friend. If Nicole had shitty coffee, I wouldn't sell it 120 pounds at a time.
I used to roast some shitty coffee. Let's just be transparent about that. When I first started roasting, it was not great.
Let me piggyback on that and thank you for your glowing endorsement. That's why I tell everybody, hey man, you need web gear, go see SOE.
You got a good web guy.
I do. Good. Well, Cody,
I tried to hire him.
Banging stuff too. I know, but this is what's called the network effect, right? And people miss that as well. If you're into entrepreneurship, you're going to start a business, whether you know it or not, that you need to build an audience, but you already have a network. And you should constantly be growing that network, whether it's in-person events, going to meet people, doing what we're doing today, live streaming with people, just simply coordinating. And pro tip on that, do what you say you're going to do. Like, show up. Like, I was texting Nicole before this because a tree had fallen across one of the roads. It's very windy here. It's been pouring rain. A tree had fallen across one of the roads. And I texted Nicole and I was like, hey, I'm doing my best to be there, touch and go right now. Got to deal with this tree that's across the road. And praise y'all, some of my brothers handled it. I didn't even have to grab a chainsaw. That's super cool. Again, network effect. But commo and do what you say you're going to do and be like, the people who succeed in business, there's this idea of all like the evil capitalists, right? It's like they're actually pretty good at what they do. If they weren't pretty good at what they do, they wouldn't have the money to do all the evil shit that they do, right? And they have a network, that the good old boys network, the good old girls network, that's real. You already have a network. You should work your network, and you should continue to seek to grow your network. And if some point the network gets so big that you can't manage it, Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. 80% of these people that you're interacting with on the regular are maybe contributing 20% to whatever the end goal is, whether it's the profitability of the company, raising awareness, the joy in your heart. 80% of these people could probably fall by the wayside and your life will be fine. But again, that's a later stage consideration. Right now, if you decide to start a Nalgene company, I'm going to start a water bottle company. You probably know people who need water bottles. And you could start right there and document making the water bottles for your content to build your audience. And then you empower the people you know in your network with that content so they can evangelize on your behalf. When somebody goes, where did you get that awesome water bottle? You go, watch this video. And then you make the ask at the end of the video, like John said. If you'd like to get a water bottle, you can find them at waterbottles.com. Thank you so much for your support. And then you do a promo where SOE makes a water bottle holder, and inside of the water bottle are Holler Roast coffee beans. So now you've partnered, and then you get promotional access across multiple platforms to grow your audience, blah, 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 blah. All that's network effect. And there's so much business shit that happens behind the scenes that people never see. And I think it's one of the things that's missed. Talk to people and then do what you say you're going to do.
And go meet them in person.
Yep.
And
when you can.
And you could even take Nalgene bottles and put your sticker on them and sell Nalgene bottles while you're sourcing yours and say, hey, I thought this Nalgene bottle was awesome. I thought I would like to turn on a couple different things. Don't ever speak ill of the product, right? And then once you're building that, don't ever compare your product to something else. There's so many generators out there, and their whole marketing campaign is we're as good as Honda, but we cost less. Maybe, but I mean, just build on your foundation and just add value, especially interacting on social media. Any place you are on social media, never put anything negative out there. Everybody talks, right? If somebody hit me up and wants to do business, I'm going to reach out to Bear and be like, hey, what do you know about this guy, right? You might have done some silly shit on the internet 5 years ago, and that will follow you. It is all there. Even if you remove it, there is still a footprint of it. Whenever you're typing something out, my rule is I never get involved in anything in a negative manner unless it is directly on my page. And I start typing, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm breaking my rule. Why am I even doing this? And if you have energy for that, you have energy for positivity. Show up places and add value and help people, and doors will open.
That's a great word.
So I remember 2 Self-Reliance festivals ago, the day before, the morning we launched, somebody said some crap about our festival. And I texted it to you, John, and you said, Nicole, you don't have time to respond to that. That person's not coming and they don't matter. You focus on the success of the event. Yep, and he was 100% right. Like, I could have spent all morning going back and forth about whatever it was they said.
Yeah, we don't even know. Who is that?
I don't even know what they said anymore.
I don't know. Joel Salatin showed up at ours, though.
Yep. That's a great point. Yesterday, the video that I put up on Patreon yesterday, our Patreon's $10 a month. And we had the people out from Joseph's Kitchen to come out and make bread with us and, show us their system on how they make bread. And it was like, I ended up having to do some live Rachel Ray stuff. It was actually like kind of fun. We had a live studio audience. And the overwhelming majority of comments were, dude, this was great. This one video was worth my $10 a month. Thank you so much. And we would do 12 to 15 pieces of content at a minimum per month. And we're always getting comments on practically every video. This one video was worth my subscription for the month. Thank you. At the same time, I'm getting dozens of comments on how great this video was. I got one guy who sent like a nasty gram email about how like this isn't what I signed up for and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it just illustrates the point. It's like, dude, just be you. Just be you. Because it's the same video on the same platform that posted at the same time. And these people over here loved it, and this person hated it. Well, if you start chasing that too much, especially from a content creator standpoint, where you're trying to appease everybody, make everybody happy, you're going to lose your authenticity. And now you're not going to resonate with that core audience that's supporting what you're doing in the first place. It's not possible to make everybody happy. And if you somehow figured out a way to make everybody happy, your message and your product would be so watered down that it doesn't actually resonate with your core anymore. Now your business and your brand is living on borrowed time. Look at Carhartt, right? Carhartt used to be the working man stuff, right? And then COVID hit, and they forced everybody to participate in medical experimentation. And then the yuppies started wearing Carhartt, and now, like, dude, I've got a set of Carhartt bibs right here. You know what? It don't say Carhartt on them anymore. I cut the patch off and burned it, and I won't buy another one. Right?
We did an F Carhartt shirt. It had the little serum, the little syringe on there. Yep. We did a patch and a shirt for that.
And so don't try and make everybody happy. Just make a great product, have a great service, have meaningful interactions with people. And some of those people are going to send you a nasty gram and go, your festival sucks, while you're hanging out with Joel Salatin, right? Like, who cares? You think the festival sucks.
That's what
actually, empirical data says the festival doesn't suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I like. Oh, somebody, a guy on the internet doesn't like me. I can't imagine that. You could start a business. Literally, you could do everything I do on social media. Just make a spoof of being me 1 week behind, and you would be 100% successful. And your whole marketing could be, I'm nicer than John Willis. I don't say F a lot. Like, you could be the SOE guy that doesn't say the F word every other word, and you would be 100% successful. Just do what I do.
Made in the mother trucking USA.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Look, see, and because this is what friends do for each other, right?
I tell people all the time, man. You could start a company, and your whole thing, you could completely be 100% successful just on customers that don't like me. That could be your whole thing.
So for those that don't know, my spine is ridiculous. It's terrible, right? And so anyway, long story short, I'm at the physical therapist, which is a ridiculous experience when literally everybody else there is twice your age, right? Like, people walking in with walkers and all this stuff, and I'm looking around like, dude, not my vibe. I get there at 11 a.m. I'm supposed to be seen at 11 a.m. At 1 o'clock, I haven't been seen yet, and I'm losing shit because time is your most valuable resource. And I'm trying to be polite. And so I'm up at the counter talking to the girl behind the computer, and I'm like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, what's up? Because I can leave and come back a different day. What's going on? And she's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Morris. We're just really busy. It's me and 2 other geriatrics in the place. Anyway, so while I'm standing there talking to the lady, this 85-year-old woman comes up behind me, and I can just feel eyeballs burning a hole into the back of my head. And I turn around and I said, yes, ma'am. Are you okay? Can I help you? And she goes, I was reading the back of your sweatshirt. Yeah. I said, yeah, made in the motherfucking USA. And she looked at me like, I said, you have a blessed day, ma'am. I'm out. I can't take it anymore. I'm about to end up on the 5 o'clock news. And that's the thing, right? You are about that. And that resonates with people. And in fact, there's probably even people on my chat right now going, Bear said MFer. Yep.
I'm just thinking that.
We should hang out in real life sometime. You'd be amazed. Yeah. Because some of the things, I never censor what I want to say, the core of what I want to say, but I absolutely try and police my 4-letter speech when the camera's on, because I know there are some 85-year-old women in our group. I've had people say, well, you must not really be a follower of Jesus the way you talk. I'm like, well, that's fun. Let's play that game. But it is what it is. And you being you is part of your brand. And even if somebody started SOB Tactical or whatever, right? And all they did was copy you, they'd still never be you. And even if they tried to be you, they could never catch you because you have 35 years of experience at this point, right? They could have millions of dollars invested in their company and they could run all the paid ads and, sign up with Leviathan Group and get every cool guy on YouTube to rep their stuff. They'd still never catch you because they're inauthentic. And it's one of the things that I actually enjoy about the marketplace right now. So many people got freaking red pilled. So many people are waking up that they're looking for authenticity. They want somebody that their motto is made in the MF and USA, right? They want somebody that's not going to be nice to them because so many people can sniff through the niceness now and go, wait a minute, this is bullshit. I want something real, something authentic.
Yeah, I value my authenticity more than your sensitivity. And we just end the conversation right there. Whenever you have a bad day, when one of those people approaches, when you have a bad day, we'll be there to help you no matter what. All you got to do is just ask, right? We'll be there no matter what you think about what my clothing says or what comes out of my mouth. We will still be there. You let me know when you need help. And that's always the end of it. Somebody on here asked why the right doesn't organize their FUD as much as the left does. And I have a theory about that. That's why I wanted to bring that back up. It's that I don't know a lot of people on the left. I know business owners. I really don't have friends that don't have businesses. And we're busy with businesses and raising kids and raising families. And never did I think I'd be talking about grandchildren. And everything I've said for the last year is grandchildren and multi-generational because we're busy living. We don't have time to go knock on people's doors and convince them of a make-believe world. We're building our lives and our futures. And I'm building the future for people in my family who aren't even born yet.
Amen.
And that's why we're not busy playing the reindeer games. We just don't participate in the make-believe bullshit. But anybody is welcome to come here at any time and see what is actually here. If you think things look so cool on the video and that can't be how it really is, you can walk in and see every bit of the wreck, which is my life. Like that's literally how shit is. When you come to an event here, we don't clean shit up and sterilize it. It's exactly how it is. You see 100%.
Yep.
Okay. So Bear, I know you have a hard stop coming here in a few minutes. So let's go once around the horn and why don't you start by talking about the ruckus and we'll go from there. I'm having a little trouble with my screen share. So it's not, here we go. I'll be able to pull up your website for that too.
That's so fancy, Nicole. You're so good at this.
Well, it's what I do, man. It's what I do.
Great job. Great job. I approve. The Ruckus, refugeruckus.com. And what the Ruckus is we're going to throw on rucksacks and we're going to ruck through downtown Fort Smith, Arkansas. That is March 8th through 10th, 2024 in Fort Smith, Arkansas. It is specifically to raise funds and awareness for Caleb House. Caleb House is our 501c3 not-for-profit anti-human trafficking ministry. And unlike a lot of people out there that somehow have the time and money to make videos about raped kids bad, we actually rescue raped kids and then go one step further and put them back together again. And because I will take $0 from the federal, state, or local governments to do that, we are 100% self-funded. We're self-supported. And that support comes through y'all. And so the Ruckus is just one more tool in our toolkit to be able to raise funds to continue to do this. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. So on Friday, we'll have vendors and speakers. I'm hoping John's going to be one of them, not to put him on the spot in front of all these people, but I'm hoping John will be one of them.
John's coming. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm coming.
Okay. Well, you be there. We'll figure it out when you get here. Whatever you want to do, you can do. As long as it's legal, moral, ethical, you're good to go. But so we'll have speakers and workshops and vendors on Friday. Saturday is Shabbat. If you don't want to do Shabbat with us, you don't have to, but we're going to have worship music. We're going to have bands. We're going to do a Bible study. We're going to fellowship, hang out, the whole nine. And then Sunday morning, we ruck. And it is, we started with a 12-mile ruck. And I had several professional warriors come up to me and say, hey, we can do this. I don't know if you want to start day one with a 12-mile ruck. Like maybe build up to that with your audience. I said, okay, what do you suggest? They said, why don't you do a 5K? It's like 3.2 miles. Roger that. 3.2 miles. So we're going to do a 5K. There's different weight categories. If you want to push a stroller or carry a toddler, congratulations, you're a mother rucker. And then we have weight classes up from there. And so I will be carrying 50.5 pounds because the average age of a trafficking survivor is 12 years old. On average, they're female, 2/3 girls. And so the average weight of a 12-year-old female girl is 101 pounds. So I'm going to carry half of her, and one of my brothers is going to carry the other half. And we're going to march through downtown Fort Smith, Arkansas, go get our ruck on. There'll be local and hopefully national media there as well. And it'll be an opportunity to interface with a whole bunch of content creators and personal brands that you know from the internet and to fellowship with one another. It's also a great networking opportunity. A lot of people complain they can't find like-minded individuals. This is a way to do that, just like Self-Reliance Festival is a way to do that. All the details are at refugeruck.com. And if you can't come see us in person, you can be a remote rucker as well. And hopefully the idea here is that you're going to come and ruck and you get people in your community or in your faith group or in your business to sponsor your ruck. And so if you get $50 from everybody in the office to sponsor your ruck and there's 12 people there, that's an extra $600 that has been raised. And we're unapologetic about this. The whole point that we're doing this is to raise money for Caleb House because nobody is doing shit about the rescue and restoration of children. And that is something that is near and dear to our heart. And I have to do this. That's something that's between me and the creator. I have to do this. And I am blessed to be surrounded by awesome teams of people who help me do this. And I am blessed to be surrounded by an awesome audience of people in the Bear Nation that fund us with $5 and $10 and $20 bills to be able to go and make a difference.
Great.
You guys can donate to Caleb House also if you can't make the ruckus. You can see where I donated on there too. I don't ever tell somebody to do something that I have not done. You can go in there and find mine and then put yours however you want to put it in there.
Bless you, brother. Thank you.
Yep. John, what do you got?
Are we ending? Is that what we're doing here? I do a live every night at 9:00 on YouTube. Special Operations Equipment is I'm everywhere. You can find me on any of the platforms. We do several podcasts every week, and I do a live every night at 9:00. If you want to hear my foul heathen mouth every night and you have not got enough here, if you want to see the real me, 9:00 on this YouTube channel. And really the first few minutes of the deal, I walk around and show you all the gear that we made each day. I shoot that video from the Sew Factory, and then we just talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It can be homesteading, lifestyle design, business, social media, literally anything, that whole conversation. And we run between 90 minutes and 2 hours typically every night. And that conversation is driven by your guys' interaction.
Great. I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast and Holler Roast Coffee. I saw a lot of questions about what my website is, and it is hollerroast.com. If you are interested in premium, fresh roasted to order coffee, that is how we differentiate ourselves, to the person who asked how we differentiate ourselves. But mostly people buy it because they want to support me and the other neighbors in the Holler Homestead community. So check that out at hollerroast.com. And if after the ruckus, you feel like you want to have more fellowship, consider coming to Self-Reliance Festival. Self-Reliance Festival is April 6th and 7th, which is the weekend after Easter, just in case that matters in your schedule. And we'll have some great speakers out there. We've invited Bear, but we're not sure what his schedule looks like. And we have 2 different events this year. But we do raise money for a nonprofit at this event as well. And our spring fundraiser is also for Caleb House. So that is kind of locked in stone. It's Caleb House in the spring, and then in the fall we raise money for the Dark Horse Lodge. So check that out, selfreliancefestival.com. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you next week.